Well, a very good evening and thank you for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty raise early gains in a volatile session to end over 0.5% lower as subdued global cues hold sway. But mid-cap stocks show some resilience to end in the green. The rupee weakens sharply as the dollar rallies globally on expectations of more aggressive rate hikes by the US Central Bank. Global crude oil prices see choppy movement as supply disruption concerns lock horns with expectations of weakening demand. Oil Minister Hardeep Puri says that India will press ahead with its transition from hydrocarbons to green and sustainable energy to mitigate oil shocks. Adds that while the global oil crisis is not over yet, India is equipped to manage for the next few months. Prime Minister Modi will come face-to-face with China's Xi Jinping for the first time since the border clashes in 2020 at the SCO Summit in Uzbekistan. India and Chinese governments are yet to confirm if both leaders will hold bilateral talks. China's President Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin meet on the sidelines of the SCO Summit. Putin denounces attempts to create what he calls a unipolar world, praises China for their balanced position on Ukraine and backs the One China policy. Life Insurance Corporation is considering setting up its own depository after insurance regulators mandates policies to be sold in dematerialized form starting December this year. A CNBC-TV18 analysis showed depositors like NSDL, CSDL and others could see additional revenues of over 4,000 crore rupees thanks to the insurance regulators' move. Auto industry leaders seek a stable regulatory roadmap amid concerns over implementation timelines for the new passenger safety and EV testing norms. Road Minister Nitin Gadkari calls on automakers to discourage sales of diesel and petrol cars. Russian missiles target Ukraine President Zelensky's hometown after he visits cities recaptured by the Ukrainian forces. President Zelensky was also involved in a car accident, but he's not seriously hurt. A moment of truth for the crypto industry. Ethereum's biggest software update is now live. The move is designed to cut energy consumption by 99%. The founder of Patagonia donates his entire company worth $3 billion to fight climate change. 83-year-old Ivan Chouinard and his family dedicate all profits to projects that protect biodiversity and call for reimagining capitalism. Also on the show, social media influencers will now soon have to live by a new set of rules that mandate stricter disclosures. How will it impact the nascent industry? A special report coming up in just a bit. Social enterprise Haq Darshak, which works on bridging the information access gap for MSMEs and rural enterprises, wins the Social Entrepreneur of the Year award. Haq Darshak has guided over 20 lakh families and 50,000 MSMEs towards exercising their right to welfare schemes. Legendary sportsperson and 20-time Grand Slam winner Roger Federer announces that he will retire from competitive tennis. The upcoming Lever Cup will be his last tournament. Well, sad news there for sports fans and fans of Roger Federer, in fact. But before we get to that, here's a closer look at the day's market action. Equities retreated from early highs to end sharply lower. Sensex and Nifty lost over 0.5% each as a lack of fresh triggers meant subdued global cues continued to weigh on sentiment. The mid-cap index, however, showed some resilience, ending in the green. Meanwhile, in the currency market, the rupee weakened against the dollar as the greenback rallied against its global rivals. Currency markets have been largely worried that the latest economic data from the US is an indication that the American Central Bank could remain aggressive with its rate hikes as it tries to quell stubbornly high inflation. The rupee closed 26 paise weaker at 79 rupees and 69 paise to a dollar. Prime Minister Modi will be attending the crucial Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Samarkand city of Uzbekistan. Now, the 8-member bloc comprising of India, China, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Pakistan and Uzbekistan. The numbers are likely to discuss global economic turbulence, Ukraine war, energy crisis, trade and investments. Prime Minister Modi is set to hold bilateral talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. However, there is no official word if he will hold separate talks with Chinese counterpart President Xi Jinping and Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. However, this will be the first time that Modi and Xi Jinping will face each other after the border dispute of 2020. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping and Russian President Putin met in person on the sidelines of the summit for the first time after the Ukraine war. Putin reportedly thanked Xi for China's balanced stance on the Ukraine invasion, accusing the USA of provocation in the Taiwan Strait. Xi called Putin an old friend, saying that China was willing to work with Russia to demonstrate the responsibility of big powers to instill stability and positive energy in a world of chaos. Let's move ahead now. Ethereum's biggest software update, which cuts the crypto energy's consumption by 99%, is now complete. The mega overhaul, known as the Merge, will ensure that Ethereum takes a lot less energy to verify transactions, which has been a niggling worry for the crypto industry. Manisha Gupta is here now, joining us now, explaining how the Ethereum Merge is likely to work. Manisha.
Ethereum, which is the second largest cryptocurrency by market capital, has seen a very big and a very successful merger. An event which was streamed live saw about 15 minutes when the whole merger was completed, and at a difficulty level of around 5875 and some 19 zeros after that. It was so difficult that it is almost seen similar to switching out a running car's engine. That is how the world or the markets are describing this. What we have seen in sense of a merger is that we have moved on from proof of work to proof of stake. Now, proof of work requires powerful computers, a lot of energy, and it has been difficult when you look at the environment part of it. But when you talk about proof of stake now, it has brought the energy demand or requirement down by 99.95%. In this case, transactions are processed when validators take the coins, and it is, as I said, environment friendly as well. In case of proof of stake as well, the leading blockchain platform, which has decentralized applications, and all apps, NFTs, smart contracts are mostly hosted on Ethereum. Nearly 60 billion worth of economy actually is running onto this right now. The proof of stake also is important in the sense that the new tokens are now being earned by locking ETF. You need at least 32 of them, and more activity will mean more rewards, more earning of Ethereum and tokens via that, though there has to be a fees that has to be paid for all transactions onto the exchange there. Ethereum also is quite positive on the sense that you are looking at a very strong statement from Bank of America suggesting that this will now drive institutional adoption after the merger. The one thing that is still desired is that there is no cut in transaction fees, or the gas fees as we call it. It is still much higher on Ethereum.
Right, Manisha, thanks a lot for that. Now, meanwhile, the auto industry leaders seek a stable regulatory roadmap amid concerns over implementation timelines for new passenger safety and EV testing norms. Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari calls on automakers to discourage sales of diesel and petrol cars.
Because of air pollution, we are making big roads. Your turnover is going to increase. The 10% rise in automobile manufacturing. But at the same time, we will be responsible for creating more pollution in the country. And where we need to find out the solution for that, need to discourage the production and sale of diesel and petrol engines.
Well, here's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Insurance behemoth LIC is considering setting up its own depository for insurance dematerialization. This comes days after the IRDAI released a mandate for insurance policies to be stored in a demat form. Yash Jain is joining us now with those details. Yash, tell us, how is this demat process going to benefit LIC?
Well, last entire week we've been talking about what dematerialization of insurance means and what kind of opportunity does it give to various depositories like NSDL, CDSL, Carvi, CAMS. And it's exact that opportunity which the largest life insurance company in India, that is LIC, has also acknowledged. What sources tell us is that LIC is looking at putting together its own depository which would be for the purpose of dematerialization of insurance policies. A team at LIC has been assigned with this task, which is actually looking at bringing together a white paper which will be submitted with the insurance regulator IRDAI, essentially a proposal asking for the regulator's approval to start its own depository. The regulator has made it very clear that by December 2022, it wants all new policies to be issued in demat form, and a year after that, that is by December 2023, all old and existing policies will have to be brought on the demat platform. That's the exact timeline which LIC is also looking at when it comes to operationalization of its own depository. As far as the opportunity for LIC is concerned, our calculations suggest that if LIC goes outside to an external depository to dematerialize the kind of policies which it has, it would be spending around 1200 to 1400 crore for the purpose of dematerialization. Now imagine the same situation with its own depository. That entire money will come to its own depository. Also, because it's a captive depository as a subsidiary, the cost of dematerialization could also be reduced. Third thing, LIC will be able to keep its policyholders' data within itself with its own depository. And fourth thing, that a lot of other insurance companies also, maybe PSU insurance companies, could look at dematerializing their insurance policies through LIC's depository. So that could act as another source of revenue for the Life Insurance Corporation of India.
Right, Yash. Thanks a lot for those exclusive updates. Moving ahead now to news coming in from the telecom space. Big subscriber gain for Jio. The telecom company added 29.4 lakh new users in the month of July alone, as per data coming in from the telecom regulator. This takes Jio's mobile customer base to 41.49 crores. Airtel, meanwhile, added over 5 lakh subscribers. Vodafone Idea lost over 15 lakh subscribers. The Bar Council of India has passed a resolution to increase the retirement age of High Court and Supreme Court judges. The resolution seeks to increase the retirement age of High Court judges from 62 to 65 and the retirement age of Supreme Court judges from 65 to 67. The government will unveil its national logistics policy this weekend. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the policy will aim at reducing logistics costs to global benchmark levels of 8 to 9%. 30 digital systems working in logistics arena across 7 ministries will be integrated. 14 states, meanwhile, have made logistics policy. 13 states currently have it in the draft stage. The 48th meeting of the GST Council is not likely to take place in September either. Sources say the latest postponement to a meeting originally scheduled for the first week of June is due to delays in report submissions by various groups of ministers. We have an indication that the GOM on the online gaming and casinos has requested an extension, while the group of ministers on GST appellate tribunals is yet to submit its report. The founder of outdoor apparel brand Patagonia, Ivan Shuina, and his family are giving away their ownership, dedicating all profits to projects and organizations fighting climate change. A statement said that the company's stock will now be owned by a climate-focused trust called the Patagonia Purpose Trust and group of non-profit organizations called Hold Fast Collective. The trust will get all the voting stock, which is 2% of the total. The Hold Fast Collective owns all the 98% non-voting stock. Patagonia expects to generate and donate about $100 million annually, depending on the health of the business. Well, with that, it's time now to slip into a very short break. But coming up on the other side, social media influencers will now soon have to live by a new set of rules that mandate stricter disclosures. How will it impact the nascent industry? A special report when we come back. Welcome back. Now, social media influencers will soon have to live by a new set of rules, rules that mandate disclosures regarding the products or services that they promote through their platforms and content. Now, CNBC TV18 Shilpa Rani Petta finds out what this could mean for an industry that's in its nascent stage, yet is growing rapidly.
The next time you watch content from your favorite social media influencer, look out for some additions to the screen in the form of disclaimers.
Forgetting the hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored for paid brand promotions could soon become a costly problem for social media influencers. The government is set to regulate social media influencers, making it mandatory to disclose paid associations with brands, and failure to do so could attract fines ranging between 10 to 50 lakh rupees, and repeat offences could lead to a ban of up to 3 years.
These government regulations come close on the heels of similar guidelines laid down by advertising regulator ASCI, and experts say they're long overdue. According to the INCA Influencer Marketing Report, India's influencer marketing industry was valued at 900 crore rupees in 2021 and pegged to grow 25% to 2,200 crore rupees by 2025. That's because 100% of the marketers who participated in the survey said influencers are their number one choice. And in many cases, budgets for influencer marketing has jumped by 25 to 36%. This means influencers are now becoming brand ambassadors, making anywhere up to $65,000 a month, depending on follow count. And a bulk of this comes from brand promotions. And the rules are generally being welcomed.
Back in the day when we want to declare it to our audiences that if in case it was an advertisement, brands would be very, very hesitant because they would feel that it would lose that organic sense of marketing that in the past is what was known as the influencer's magic. And with the guidelines, we now saw that the brands themselves were asking us as influencers to put all the necessary notifications and declarations so that the consumers are protected. And I think in general, this adds in a lot of responsibility to influencers and the work that we are doing, which in no way is a negative.
Most of the brands have been recognizing the importance of being upfront and truthful with their consumers by specifying that this is a piece of content which has been specifically targeted at a certain audience. I think it's been taken quite well and in a positive light. It's actually a win-win that we have now tags saying that this is a sponsored content or it's an advertisement. So one, the brand is being very upfront and truthful with the consumers. Second, consumers know that this is a sponsored content and consciously they are trying to engage with such content.
The regulations aren't entirely new, but with the industry still at a nascent stage, many believe steep fines that could range up to 50 lakh rupees is rather harsh, especially on some of the less established influencers.
10 lakhs is a very harsh fine to be levied, and maybe the better way to deal with this would be to understand if someone has made a genuine mistake, send them out a notice and see if they're being repeat offenders, one, and two, give them maybe a 24-hour time period to rectify their mistake, and then see if they are still not rectifying it, maybe levy a fine.
But many say strict regulations will not get in the way of the industry's growth.
I don't think it'll be too much of an impact. And do I feel that it's going to shift spends from influencer marketing? No, I don't think so. I think influencer marketing is here to stay, and it's probably going to get bigger and bigger as we move on.
But some maintain that the rules should go both ways.
The industry believes that the onus should also lie equally on brands and agencies and not just influencers. The hope is that the rules will be clear on every aspect of brand-influencer engagement, from defining who exactly an influencer is and what exactly is deemed a paid promotion. In Mumbai, Shilpa Rani Peta.
Right. Meanwhile, mourners queued up to pay their last respects to Queen Elizabeth II at Westminster Hall. The late Queen's body will lie in state there until her funeral on Monday. Sanjay Suri brings us the latest.
Well, this year behind are the palaces of Westminster, and that next to Big Ben is Westminster Hall, where the coffin is lying in state. And that is where so many thousands and thousands are headed to, and it is no easy task to get there. The queues have been forming miles long. From here, if one were to walk down along the queue to where it begins, that goes back along the river to the far end up to Tower Bridge. It's about there that the queue is beginning at the moment, and then all along the river to then come to this point right behind. And that is not the end of it. People are not just walking across the bridge now from here to Westminster Hall. The queue here then goes further along the river. It will go to the bridge behind, it will loop around and then come around on the other side of the river to then walk along Mill Bank and then head to the Palace of Westminster. There is an advisory in place that people do need to get on with this the earliest they comfortably can in order to have that moment. That moment, when it comes, does not last very long. People have to be in and out of Westminster Hall within a minute. We have seen images, of course, of the coffin lying in state within Westminster Hall on that raised platform, and that is past which people have been coming in very quietly, heads bowed, very solemn a moment, a very painful moment when people have lost the only monarch that most have known all their life. But this is not a moment they could have let pass without being there and being present.
Well, back home now, social enterprise Haq Darshak, which works on bridging the information access gap for MSMEs and rural enterprises, won the Social Entrepreneur of the Year award. Haq Darshak has guided over 20 lakh families and 50,000 MSMEs towards exercising their right to welfare schemes. Well, heartbreaking news now for tennis enthusiasts across the globe. Legendary player Roger Federer has announced his retirement from professional tournaments. Next week's Laver Cup in London will be his final ATP event. In a long, emotional letter, Federer thanked his family, his team, competitors, sponsors and the fans for contributing in his 24-year-long journey. He ended the letter by saying, and I quote here, "Finally, to the game of tennis, I love you and will never leave you." End of quote. Well, a man genuinely in contention for the tag of GOAT or the greatest of all times. But that's unfortunately all the time that we have for. It's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News continues right here on CNBC TV 18.